Hello everyone. Very good morning and good evening. Just a minute. So let's start the session. Let me share my screen. Okay, guys. So in the previous session, what we have done, so we have discussed about like how to work with like the table types, right? Different table types, and then how to create a different so tables like permanent and transient and temporary, right? So when we created that permanent and transient and temporary tables, so and then a database or schema, whatever it may be, if you observe all the tables, all the databases, and all the like schemas, whatever it may be, if you observe the retention time period, what is the retention time period? By default, it is 1 day only. Observe this one. By default it is 1 day. Now in this session what we are going to do is, so how to like create a retention period, and based on the retention period, so how it is going to like the implement the time travel, so how the time travel is going to work based on retention period. So we will see this information now. Now let's say here all the retention period is 1 day. For example, what we discussed, if your table, if your database is permanent, so your schema, whatever you are going to create, if you don't mention any specific type, right, it is a transient, or so if you don't mention, then by default it is going to create it as a permanent, right? If you don't mention any table type, by default it is going to create it as a so permanent table, right? The same way, if you create a retention period for a database, so the same retention period, it is applicable for schema, and then it is applicable for the inside the tables also. Schema and then inside tables also. It is applicable default by default. So now, so whatever the tables already created, so these tables we didn't given any retention period, right? If you change the database retention period now today, so after that, whatever the tables we are going to create, those tables retention period will be applicable based on the database. Remaining already which we have created, it won't change, right? The same way it is inherited the properties from a higher level, but so it is not going to implement. So based on, just a minute. Yes. Okay. So fine. Now, so let's observe this. So here, how to implement the retention period. So based on the retention period, how it is going to like implement this information, we will see all these things. So now let's come to this one. So for example, what we will do is we will create a retention period, and then we will see how the things is going to work here. Let's come to, so we are working with retention period and time travel. So let's observe this, how you are going to set the retention time period property. So when you are going to implement, see this, if you create a table in any other database, now if you observe this particular database, which it is already available, right? The class database, and let's connect it to public schema. These two things, which it is already available, these particular databases, it's already available. This schema is already available, right? Now, this particular database, what is the retention time period? 1 day, right? Now, even though if it is a 1 day retention period, so suppose now when we are creating a table inside this particular database, right? If you don't mention any specific thing, then by default it will take 1 day. If you mention, if you hard coded the values for that particular retention period. So then what it will do is it is going to take it from the retention period, how many days we have mentioned for that particular table. See this one. So we are going to create a table, for example, plus table. So with the ID, salary, manager ID, and data retention time in days. Observe this one, 90. We are trying to create. This is only applicable for a permanent table only, right? This is only applicable for permanent 90 days. So now let's run this here. If you observe, table is created, right, with 90 days retention period. If you want to create a table, we are going to create till here, that's it, right? If you want the mention retention period based on our requirement, so then we are going to mention data retention time in days. Data retention time in days equal to 90. Now if you observe here, refresh it, the table is created. Just now the table is created. And if you see, for example, show tables, observe this retention period for this particular table. You can able to see this one, retention period, sorry, 90 days retention period, right? 90, right? It has created. Now, what is the maximum retention period for the tables? 90 days only. If I try to create more than this, observe this one. For example, let's say we are trying to create more than this, for example, 91 days. It will allow, observe this one. What it is telling, let me run only this. See this one, exceeded maximum allowed retention time. It means it is not allowing, it is not allowing us, right? Allowing us to create a retention time more than 90 days. So then what we have done, we have created a table. So see, it is not allowing. Suppose if you, this is a table we created, where we created under public schema. But what is the public schema retention period? It is 1 day only, right? If you default, if you don't give any retention period for that particular the table, then by default it is going to take based on the schema level, right? But what we have done, we had a so we can have an option to like create on our own. So based on the requirement, so for the specific tables, we can able to create it. If you don't mention specifically, if you don't mention the retention period property for this, then only it will inherit. Otherwise, by default, it is going to like whatever the how many days retention period you are going to mention, those many days it is going to take. Now, if you observe, so show schemas here, let's say show schemas in this particular database. So two schemas, public schema, right? So public schema, what is the retention period? 1 day. Where this table is available? In a public schema only. But how come this table is got 90 days, right? 90 days because we mentioned specifically, we have mentioned, right? If you don't mention, then it is going to take 1 day. For example, this retention period for schema, let's create any schema under this, and if you give any retention period for like 50 days or 40 days, 30 days, whatever it may be, then whatever the tables you are going to create under that, it will be by default it will be 30 days. If you modify the schema level, it will the change that in a table level also because it has inherited, right? Now let's observe this. So let's create a schema. For example, create retention create schema name retention I will give, and then data retention time in days. Let's come to this data retention time in days, we will give 31. Observe this one, how many days we are giving. We are creating a schema name as a retention, and then So we are giving the data retention time in days as a 31 days, where we are creating this particular schema, which database we are creating under class database. But what is the class database retention period? Only 1 day, right? But we can able to create. So by default for the permanent, we have an option to create up to 90 days for a schema level. So for a database level, for a table level. Now observe this. We are going to create a retention. Now we created. Now by default, this retention schema, it is connected here. See this one schema, it is connected, right? Now, what is the retention period for this? 31 days, right? It is 31 days. Now, let's create one table under this particular schema. We will create it. For example, we will create one table here along with the data. You'll see. First, let's create a table. Later, we will do the data. See this one. We are not mentioning any retention period for this. We are not going to mention any retention period for this. Here we are using employee new. So which database? Sorry, which schema we are creating? A retention schema. And so what will be the like a data retention period? By default, it is going to pick it from schema level. What is the schema level? We have 31 days, right? Now observe this. Show tables within this particular schema. Within this particular schema, see this one. This is the table. This is the schema level. And then observe this one. What is this? 31 days, right? 31 days. For example, if you alter this retention period, if you alter retention period, so let's say for example, so let's alter the retention period to some other days. So what we will do is this particular schema, we are going to alter it. So previously, how many days we have? 31 days. Now what we are doing? Alter. So schema, and then what is the schema name? This is the schema name, and then set data retention time in days to 30. Now what we are doing? We are setting the data retention time in days to 30 days instead of 31 days, right? Just a minute. Sorry. If you do instead of 31, if you like alter the data retention time period, so for 30 days, what will happen? Instead of this 31, whatever the table we have created, the table which we have created, employees new table we created. For this particular table also, retention period will be changed as a 30 days, because this table when you created, it has inherited from schema level, right? Now observe this one. We have modified this statement executed successfully. Now let's check the table level. Previously it is 31. Now let's check the table retention period. See this one. What happened now? 30 days. We didn't change manually, right? It means if it is inherited, whatever the tables is available in that particular schema everywhere. So if it is inherited from so schema level, automatically it is going to so pick the things from the so complete the information, right? And so now let's see so how the time travel is going to work based on this retention time period. Here if you observe,
Dinesh, sorry to disturb actually. Can we increase it 31 to 41?
yeah, we can do that up to 90 days, not more than that.
Okay.
290 we can do, but not more than 90 days. Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, good. So now, if you observe this here, see this, we created the table, employees new table, where we created, under the retention time period. This is the table we created. At what time we have created? Now let's assume, so we are going to discuss about, so based on this particular implementation we will understand how the time travel is going to work. So this is day one. Let's assume that day one, what we have done, we created a table. That's it. Day one we created a table. If I use, for example, select star from table, this is a table, right? So when you use this select star from table here, then what will happen? So when you run this one, see this, so we will get empty, right? It means we don't have any data here. We don't have any data here, right? Now let's observe this one. So for example, so day two, let's assume day one, just we created a table. Just we created a table. When you observe this, table structure is available in a day one. Now we are in day two. Let's assume that to understand this time travel option. Day two, we are going to create, we are going to insert the data into this table. How many records we are inserting? Insert data into the table around 3 records here, right? This is day two. Let's assume. Okay. After day two, if you observe the data in the table, so what is the table name? Employees name. After day two, if you observe, see this, you can see 3 rows, right? How many we have? 3 rows, right? Okay. Now let's come to day three. Day three. What we are going to do is we are going to update some record here in this employee table. We're going to update it. That is in a day three. Into this update table set. What we are going to update it? We are going to update salary column. Going to update salary equal to, for example, I am updating with all nines, where salary equal to, or where employee ID equal to, I will take it as a 3. Employee ID equal to 3. Now what we are doing, we are going to update that particular data in a day 3, right? Now after day 3, if I check the data here, after day 3 execution, if I check the data, this is your final data. You can able to see after update, right? Now this is day 3, and then next day, let's say day 4. Again what you are going to do is, again we are inserting the records into that particular table. We are going to insert in day 4. We are inserting the values. We are inserting these values. This is day 4. Now if you check the data after inserting the values, after the day 4, you can able to see this is the data, right? This is the data. This is after day 4, right? Now, so this is day 5. Let's assume day 5. Day 5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete from this particular table where what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete so one particular specific record. For example, so employee ID equal to 73. Employee ID equal to 73. I am trying to delete. This is in day 5, guys. Day 5. And after that, if I check the data, after deletion, I can able to see the data, right? After deleted, I can able to see the data. Now we have only 7 rows. That employee ID 73 is not available, right? So now these are the 5 different like transactions we have done on a table on different days. Let's assume that. Now what you can able to observe in this particular table, this is your final data after your all the transactions, right? And everyday transaction, after everyday transactions, you can able to see this is your final data. Now our requirement is, I wanted to see the data 2 days before data, how it looks like. I wanted to see before updating the data into the table, how the data looks like in the table. Or I wanted to check the data 4 days before, how the data looks like 4 days before. So this is the data, just we created a table. After that, before deleting this particular data, how the data looks like in the table, or 1 day before, how the data looks like in this particular table, right? So for that, if you wanted to get that information, we have to use time travel option to go back and then check at that particular period of time what exactly is available in the table. This is your final table. After insert, updates, deletes, and everything, whatever you have done, you can able to see this data as a final table, right? But what is our requirement? I wanted to see the data 2 days before, how it looks like. Just a minute. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Now, so let's observe this. If you wanted to go back and then if you wanted to check what exactly is available before that particular implementation or before these many days, then we have a time travel option. There is three different approaches we have. One is by using timestamp. Another one is by using our query ID. Another one is by using offset option. We used to call it as a offset option. When you are using offset, right, time, it means so 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, so or half an hour before, 1 hour before, we can use a offset time, right? But so when you are so implementing offset time, we need to mention the time period in the form of seconds, in the form of seconds. When you are using query ID, based on the query ID, we can, before that query ID, we can see what exactly is available. It means, I mean to say, before this particular execution, before deleted, how the data looks like in the table, before updated the statement, before I have updated this particular statement executed, how it looks like in the table, I wanted to cross check. Then we can able to use exactly, if you know the query, so which query executed before that, if you wanted to see, we can able to implement query ID implementation, right? And when another thing, we have timestamp option. We have timestamp option. When it is coming to the timestamp, we are going to mention the time period, specifically the time period. So including hours, minute, and until the seconds. Okay. Now we will see so how we are going to implement it. Now let's say, so this particular thing, we will see offset method first. So let's come to, if you wanted to get the complete historical data, see this one, we can use by using, this is offset implementation. Let's observe this. Select star from table, right? What is the table name? Employees underscore new. This is a employees underscore new. The table name is underscore new. At, observe this, offset minus 60 seconds. This is seconds. This is a indication of the time travel. This is syntax. And so star, if you are giving 5, it means 5 minutes before, right? Minus 60 multiply 5 means 5 minutes before. How the data looks like in the table, in this particular table, we can able to get that information. Now see this one. 5 minutes before, how many rows we have? 7 rows. Let's say 7 minutes before. See this. How many we have? 8 rows. This 73 is not deleted. And then let's say 10 minutes before. See this one. 10 minutes before, how many rows we have? Only 3 rows we have in this particular table. Now, for example, let's go to 12 minutes before. What you observed? 12 minutes before, we don't have any data, just a structure created. Just created a structure. Just created a structure. So we don't have any other thing. All right. And let's come 13 minutes before. Its structure is available. 14 minutes before also available. 15 minutes before available. See this. 16 minutes before, from this particular time, the table itself, it is not available in the table. What you understand by this? The time travel, it will start from the time, the time of creation of the table. When you have created the table, from that particular time, it is going to calculate the time travel. It will, time travel implementation will happen. Now, see this, what it is telling. So this is, so beyond allowed requested time, beyond allowed requested time, it is not allowing to like create it, right? So that is the main thing here. Now this is by using a offset. You can use, this is offset method. This is a one
I have a
method.
doubt.
Yes,
So
yes.
what is that? The minus 60, what does it mean?
Minus means we are going back.
Okay, what is 60?
60 is a seconds. Always we need to mention
Okay,
in form of seconds.
okay. The last
For
60 seconds we cannot do. After 60 seconds before only we can see. Is it like that
no,
or?
if I wanted to see 5 minutes before, how many seconds I have to give? If I wanted to see the data 5 minutes before,
300
minus how many
seconds.
seconds, right?
300 seconds. Okay.
300, right? That's why I have given 5 minutes. If I wanted to send 10 minutes before, always we are giving in the form of 60, right? You understand? Otherwise, I can give directly 600 here. See this, 600 means 10 minutes before, right? And then if I give 300 means, so just for the calculation I have given, it's very easy, right? So for example, 60 multiply 60 seconds, so multiply by how many minutes you want, like for example 9 minutes, right? So 9 minutes I want.
So
So
can we see 30 seconds before? 1 second before?
you can do that. See
Yeah.
this.
No.
So for example, so how many like a seconds before you wanted to?
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime, right? Understand, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can able to. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is offset time. Okay. Just we are going to mention based on the seconds here. Okay. Minus means going back. All right, minus means going back.
So
So
this is
30
the
seconds
final.
before.
So this is like from the final query, right? From the final
Hmm.
statement which we have executed. It is not like minus 30 seconds back.
No, no, no. It is not like that. From this particular time. From this particular time. If you observe the timestamp, it is going to calculate. So based on the current time, so 30 seconds before, based on the current execution. That's why we will use offset. If you wanted to know from that particular current time, 50 minutes before what exactly available in the table. We have done some transactions, we are doing something, and then we wanted to know, okay, I have done something on this particular table. I wanted to see, so for 5 minutes before, or 10 minutes before, or 15 minutes before, what exactly is available in the table.
Can we
So
give
then
the
only,
range from
sorry.
30? Can we give the range 3 minutes to 5 minutes?
No, the range it is not possible. It's
Okay.
completely a snapshot, right? So that's why we can able to implement it. We can able to give the query ID, we can able to give the timestamp. That's it. The range is not possible. Okay. So now this is by using a seconds implementation, right? Now, if you wanted to, so we have before that, so how it will be calculable. So based on always it will take timestamp by using the UTC time zone. Always Snowflake will consider UTC universal time zone by default. If you observe the current timestamp, it is not going to work based on this particular timestamp. This is based on the region which you have created, right? By default, it is going to take a timestamp. But internally, when especially when you are working, right? So it is going to take based on UTC time zone. UTC time zone. Just a minute. Let me keep the charger. If you observe here, this is the timestamp, right? This is timestamp. Let me keep it here. This is required for us. This is a timestamp. This is year, and then month, and then date, and then hours, minutes, and then so seconds. The completely it is showing the everything, right? So that's how it is going to work here. And at the same time, 1 second, let me keep my charger.
Why you are changing the time zone?
By default, what will happen is, uh, yeah, what will happen is here, by default, it is going to take the time zone in the UTC format. So when you are implementing a timestamps,
Okay.
okay, if you wanted to see what exactly the timestamp, based on which timestamp it is going to calculate, always it is going to, when you are implementing time travel, right, we have to mention in a UTC format. That's why. So just I have changed the timestamp and then I pick the UTC timestamp. Okay. So now, so this
By
is by
default, when it is
using,
taking by default when it is taking UTC, why you are changing again to UTC?
by default, it is not taking UTC. By default, it is going to take based on your region timestamp. See this one.
Okay.
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 That's why. Okay. Now, let's observe this one. This is one thing. So what we observed based on your this one offset time, right? Now, let's say, so I need to I know the query which I have executed. I wanted to see the data exactly before that particular query executed time. Then what we need to get? We need query ID for that. We need query ID. For example, before that update statement, we have done some update statement here. Before that update statement, I wanted to see, so what exactly is available in the table before updated the statement. Now, if you wanted to get the query ID for that, you can see the update statement where it is available, right? So we have done some updates here where it is deleted, insert. Yeah, this is the update statement. What we have done here, we have updated the salary. We have updated salary, right? This particular information, if you observe, just copy this one. before this query ID we required. Before this query ID, I wanted to see the data. This particular query ID, what we have done? We have done some updates, right? We have done updated the record, right? Before that, I wanted to see, so what exactly available in the table. Then what we can do is, so we can use this option, right? Before query ID implementation, or we can call it as a job ID. Now this is the query ID. Let me pick this query ID and see this one, before statement execution of this. Right? Okay. Now what we are doing, what is the table? Employees underscore new. Table name is this is the table name. Come here. This is a table name. Select start from table before, and then we are giving the statement execution, and then we are executing this one. See this one, before this particular execution. So what is the data exactly available in this particular table? If you observe, see this one, previously it was 30,000. So later we have updated this employee ID 3 salary as so 999, right? If you observe here, the same thing what we have done. See this one, update statement. Where is the update statement? See this, for the employee ID we have updated, so this nice. So before this update, how it looks like, this is the one, right? Now another thing, this is by using query ID. If you know the query ID, right, we can able to do that. And we don't know the query ID, I wanted to see like a 30 days before or 2 months before. Up to how many days we can go? Up to 90 days. Now, this particular table, let's assume that we created this particular table 3 months before, or 4 months before, or 5 months before, whatever it may be, up to 90 days from now, from current timestamp, you can go back up to 90 days, and then you can see, so at that particular time, so what exactly available in that particular table. To use the timestamp, so what you can do is, so we can implement this one. See this one, before here also. So we will use select star from table before timestamp. So here, this is a table name. This is a table name. Before we are giving timestamp implementation. This is a timestamp. This is the format. So here, let me change the timestamp here. This is a timestamp here. Now observe this, select star from table, and then we are using before, and then what is the timestamp here? We are mentioning the timestamp. So this is the current timestamp what we have taken before this particular timestamp. So what exactly it is available. Now let's observe this. How many we have? 7 rows we have. Let's say, let's change the time here. For example, 7 minutes. We'll change it to 5. 7, okay, change it to 1, 7, we'll change it to plus 50 minutes. So this, right? So before this particular time, so it's just a table has been created. After that, for example, 51 and 55 I will give. So what I am giving, so 2 hours, so 55. So minutes before this particular time, exactly what exactly is available, 3 rows, right? And then, so if you observe 6 here, see this one, 8 rows. Next, so we can able to get, for example, here this is a smaller time. So what we have done the transactions. That's why we are changing this one, right? The minutes we are changing here. If it is days, what you are going to do? you can able to change the days here. If it is, so this is a month, this is a days, right? We are going to change the day, and then you can able to go back, and then you can able to check at that particular period of time what exactly is available, right? You can able to see that this is the option of time travel implementation. And based on this, if you can go back and then you can check, and if you wanted to compare, you can, what you can do, you can simply create a restore table, right? For example, you can create a, for example, previous data. So you wanted to compare, right? What you will do, you will create another table. So with this particular timestamp, right? Then you will get some information what exactly available at that particular time, and then you can compare the newest table and then old table, right? So those things, so you can, so you can try to implement it, for example, by using this particular option. See this one, you can able to create a table, so by using a clone. Otherwise, as select star from, you can use as select star from, so this particular thing, right? Instead of clone, you can use a clone, the best option. We will discuss that what is a clone in the next session. Otherwise, instead of clone, you can use like a select star from also you can use. Then what will happen, and you are going to get another table or another schema or another database at that particular period of time. You can able to compare what are the changes, so for the newest one and then previous one, so for any specific so period of the time, right? So now, so this you can try to implement it. Another thing, so now when you create a time travel, right? So here, so what is the main intention behind this? This is the one thing, so going back and then you can check the data, and based on the retention period, right? By default it is 1 day. By default it is 1 day. For permanent tables, you will have a like up to 90 days you can create it. Otherwise, if you don't create, by default 1 day, and you will have a fail safe option also, right? For example, when it is by default 1 day, when you try to for example, you have dropped by mistake, let's assume that within 1 day you can able to restore it. It means you can able to undrop it. For example, let's assume this is the retention schema, right? What I am going to do is drop schema. What is the schema name? Retention. What I am doing, I have dropped the schema, and within this I'm going to drop table, the public schema. Now see this where it's connected public, because retention is dropped. Now it's connected to public schema. I'm going to drop employee table. I dropped employee table, and I will try to drop this DB underscore transient database itself. Observe this, drop database name DB underscore transient. I dropped database. Now all these things I have dropped, right? Now, what is the retention period for this? 1 day, right? By default, it is 1 day. At the time of we have dropped, so retention period will be calculated at the time of creation date, right? So if it is very near future, now at the time of drop, the next within next 24 hours, if you try to undrop it, you can able to restore it. Now see this one here. So we don't have this DB underscore transient database. And in the class, if you observe, the schema, retention schema is not available. And then if you observe the public, the table EMP is not available. What happened? We have dropped it, right? So within 24 hours, if you observe, because why I'm telling 24 hours means, so this is by default a retention period. By default retention period, right? That is the future Snowflake has given. You can able to undrop it. Undrop schema, see this one, retention. Just you can use undrop. So what is this? Schema retention restored successfully. And for example, undrop
So this
table,
is from the
EMP.
time it has got created or from the time it has been dropped. 24 hours.
24 hour, when you have dropped, that will be for a 24 hours. You
Okay.
understand, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks.
So now, if you observe this one, undrop database. Now what happened? It has been undropped. Now everything came back. It has been restored. See this one? It has been restored. So now, so we have restored everything. The table came back, and then the schema is available, and then database also it is available. Right? So we have restored everything. So
So,
this is
Dinesh, so before we undrop the table, so we have to make sure that the same schema and the database are available still.
before.
Before we undrop any table,
Mm,
so to bring it back, so we have to make
mm,
sure the where it was existing in which schema and which database. The both should be
correct.
exist.
Exactly. Then only we can able to do that. If you like undrop it, then it is going to like get it back.
So
Right?
first we have to undrop database,
Mm,
then
mm.
schema, then table. This is the
Ex
sequence.
yes, yes. Okay. So now, so one thing here, what we observed. So based on the, if you have a retention time period, then only we can able to undrop it. If the retention period is gone, for example, so next tomorrow, the same time. So we am trying to after like a 9 or after like a 24 hours. So after we have dropped, after 24 hours, we are trying to get back. Then it will not allow you because of retention period is only 1 day. Then what you are going to do in this particular case? In this particular situation, we have a fail safe option. We have fail safe option. The fail safe is not applicable for so users. It means as a user, as a account admin also, you won't have any control on a fail safe. You need to send a request to Snowflake support team to get back something from a failsafe period. That too, 7 days it will be applicable. Only 7 days. Within the 7 days, for example, today we have dropped. The next within 7 days before, if you go and then if you check with them, then only they can able to restore it and then they will give it to us. But so for that, whatever the things they have recovered, right? For that, we will get a like a billing. So it means they are going to charge for that. They are going to charge for that. See this one, this fail safe, it is non-configurable. This is you able to change your fail safe period to 10 days. They will mention that. They will give like alter like for example the fail safe period to something. Is this going to work it or not? Otherwise, so can I able to change it? So my fail safe period to 10 days. Is it possible? Not possible, right? So, and see this one, this is only accessible by Snowflake. So personal, it means nothing but a Snowflake support team and even admins, right? Nothing but account admins here. You can able to see the fail safe, but you cannot able to so do anything. You don't have any control on that. And failsafe is not supported for see this one. So temporary and then transient tables. It is not allowed for temporary and transient table. If you observe this in this particular account, you can able to see if you now we are in an account admin role. If you go to the account and then if you go to this particular usage and then average storage, you can able to see about the failsafe. See this failsafe you can able to see, but you don't have any control on this. You don't have any control on this. Failsafe is applicable only for a permanent tables only, not for every table, not for every table, right? So these are the things how the things is going to work in a backend. So just to try to implement like 1 or 2 times. So about this particular the time travel implementation, create a table the same way what we have done, and then try to implement it. Let's may come to the, let's come to the questions here in the chat window first. Offset work only how many hours? There is no limit. It will work for more than 24 hours also. But only the thing is you have to mention every time in the form of seconds only. Okay. Any other questions?
Hey, Dinesh,
Yeah,
this Mohan here. So one is so you said like any tables, like I mean if you alter schema for the retention period, it alters the retention period of the tables, which inherits the retention period from the schema, right?
Correct.
So only which tables have actually created without retention period.
Exactly. Correct.
So if you mention specific, like other than the retention period of the schema, so they'll be as it is, right?
That will be as it is. Exactly. Correct.
Okay. So what if we increase the retention period for the schema? So will it increase the retention period for the tables as well, right? I mean, of course, if it increases. In that
If it
case,
is inherited only, it will increase. If
yeah,
it is not inherited, it will not increase. For example, if you observe this particular database retention period by default 1, right? And then this public schema retention period is 1 day only. This retention we have increased up to, like for example, 30 days, 31 days. So now, so these things, it is not impacted, right? For example, if I increase this particular database retention period to 90 days, so whatever the things already it is available, it is not going to impact on anything. The next, what I am going to like create table or a database as a table or schema, on those things, the retention period will be applicable.
Okay. Time travel and retention period, are these interconnect? I mean,
correlated. Yes.
Correlated or okay.
Yep. Because
so in that,
based on retention time only, we can decide how many days we can go back and then check. That is a time travel. Time travel always depends on retention period.
Okay. So in that case, if we increase the retention period, so we cannot actually, unless the increased time cross the like amount of retention period, we cannot actually go back with the time travel, right?
Yep.
Which means today I mean 30 days was there, and if we suddenly increase that 30 days to 90 days, after 60 days only we can go back up until I mean up to 90 days. Okay.
Yes, correct understanding.
Yeah, thanks. And the other one, I think, can you please open the screenshot which you just opened from the
Fail safe.
Yeah, fail safe. Yes. Yeah, the first point, what does it mean exactly? Like 7 days retention period for historical, which means
example,
90 days. After 90 days.
Yes, 90 days. We have given 30 days time travel, but 30 days time travel is completed. After the time travel, you will have 7 days extra grace period. So that is nothing but a fail safe period. For example, here by default retention period is 1 day, right? After 1 day, for every permanent table, you have 7 more extra days with the Snowflake team.
Okay.
Got it, right?
But
that
it is just to restore the table.
Just to restore.
Not the right time travel kind of.
Not the time travel. So what they can do is they can give the backup. That's it.
Backup. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a we can so alternate for disaster recovery.
Okay. Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
While creating database, suppose we have created retention period of 30 days. And after that, I have created couple of tables. So all of those tables will have by default that 30 days as the retention period. Okay. And one of the table, I have changed the retention period to 40 days. So if I change the DB level retention period to 15 days. I reduce. Will it impact the tables, other tables, and the modified table?
If until unless if it is inherited from the database, then only it
Yeah,
is going to
but
impact.
in my
Otherwise,
example, I quoted 5 tables I created.
Mm.
While creating first time DB, it was 30 days. All 5 tables will get the 30. But for one
Correct,
table,
exactly.
I increased one table number 4, I increased to 45 days. And I went back to database and I changed the time period.
Understand. Yes,
15.
it is not going. Yeah.
So for tables 1, 2, 3, 5 will still be first time retention period. Will it continue, or the recent 15 days period will?
Recent 15 days, because it has inherited from the schema level, right?
Okay.
The table 4 which you have mentioned, so that it is not going to impact.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
So basically,
before class, yes.
so basically, this inheritance actually follows the, I mean, DB level to schema level, and from schema level
Yes,
to
schema level to table level.
table level. Okay.
So I cannot use before class in time travel. So we are using a before class, right? In the time travel, we are using the statement itself. See this one, before, right? We are using a before one. Before this particular time period, before this particular statement, how it looks like, right? So that is the meaning of this before class. We are using that.
Dinesh, do we see any logs in this?
Logs in the sense what exactly? So,
Um,
Shwati.
if you want to see what kind of
Mm.
operations we have done apart.
Yeah, got it. So on the complete thing, we can able to see that in a history data. This is the kind of log for us. So this is one thing. And then if you are like assuming like whatever the things we have done on the table, if you wanted to see the logs kind of thing, the transactions implementation. So for that we have a different option called streams option. And that is a different thing. Whatever insert. So here what you are doing in this particular table, you can able to see so what exactly before that particular period of time, but we don't see what are the operations we have performed on this particular table, right? We cannot see that. So what are the operations we have performed, like whether inserts, updates, deletes. If you wanted to see these kind of operations, then we have a stream option. That is a different concept. Okay, and we will discuss that one.
And what is the how much log or history is maintained? Is it again a 90-day or 30-day period? Or
The on the table, so by default it is going to maintain around 14 days of the transaction if you create a stream option.
okay,
Otherwise it won't.
okay, yeah. Thanks, Dinesh.
Ganesh,
But
even
this
log
is
thing we can adjust. Like you are saying that we can see the log for 14 days. Like more than 15 days. So I can mention somewhere
We can able to see the history information by history tab only 14 days. If you wanted to more than that, right? We have another table called account history, information schema account history table is there. There we can able to see the complete information up to 6 months to 1 year also. It based on what is the operation you have performed. That option is there.
So if that is the case, Dinesh, we can say the time travel we can do till 6 months and 1 year, right?
No.
We
It
can
is not
confuse.
possible. So time travel is different case and then logs is different case. Logs is what is happening in the backend, right? The time travel is it is going to keep a copy of that particular the timestamp, right? If it is keep on like maintaining a copies, then your database volume will be increased, right?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
What is the place you said like for going back in the history to see for 6 months? Back the job ID.
6 months, that is in a account history table. So just we can able to see the logs, not the history. Okay.
Right. Just the job IDs are the
Yes,
executed
exactly.
SQL. If you wanted to see where we can see, can you please show that?
If you observe.
Dinesh, one thing, like you just said that see, if we are going to maintain a huge history, it will add up the space, right? But like my understanding, this Snowflake only
These are
charges
the
for the
information.
retrieval and that. So I think
But
there is no
correct.
harm in maintaining even if the data
No,
is
no.
huge, right?
One thing here. But so for the storage also Snowflake will charge from us, right? For the storage also, for terabyte per month, right? So that will be there.
But I don't know. I will check it. But to my
There is two
knowledge,
charges.
that store
We are going
there
to
is no
discuss
store.
that topic in another
Okay.
2 sessions. Okay. There is a computation
Okay.
charges as well as storage charges. If you observe here exactly in the account, you can able to see the usage. See this one, storage usage. It is calculating, right? This is related to, so this one, right? This one is related to our like a credit usage, right? Credit usage, like nothing but a how much time we are using the virtual warehouse. This is related to computation, and when it is coming to this one, this is related to storage. You got it, right? So for the both the things, the Snowflake we have to pay.
And one more thing, Dinesh, like in when I go to this interface now, I'm not able to see where I can find the days remaining. Can you just show where I can
Which one?
find how many days? Like you go to Snowflake portal, na billing, where billing and usage, the next tab.
This one, huh?
No. This one where I can find the days since I'm in a trial period. So I where I can how many days are remaining for me. That information is not visible for
How
me
many days
earlier.
remaining for you? So the day when you have created, right? So that particular thing, you can able to see that here, the notifications, not here. You can able to see that information here.
Because earlier, like
It
it
will be
was
there.
on
Your
the left
email
corner,
ID
it
will be
used.
there. Yes. You can able to see that information here, but you will get that notification.
Hey, Dinesh, you said the history stays for only 14 days, right?
Correct.
History. So in that case, how can we actually identify the query IDs or something like that if you want to go back like more than 14 days or something?
Yeah, more
That's
than
what I have
14 days. Yeah. So that's why we have a timestamp option, right? If you wanted to go back and then check more than 14 days, you cannot able to identify the query ID here easily. So that's why we have a timestamp option.
Yeah, even for the timestamp, if you, I mean, here it is okay, but in production, these things, every day will have actually a lot of updates or some insertions maybe happening. So in that case, we have to like go with a particular timestamp. At least we have to check what are the operations have been. Happen in that point of time. So then only we can determine the exact timestamp which we want exactly looking for.
Correct.
So
For that account usage history table is there. Okay, that's what I am checking. So where exactly the table is.
yeah, even
Okay, so
I
in
mean,
account
if
usage history, you can able to see the complete query history data up to 6 months also.
Yeah, that may not be available for all the developers or
See this one.
who are working on particular project, right?
Mm,
That may be with the
exactly.
whoever account owner.
Whoever is a account owner
So,
and then account
yeah, for
admin.
each and every things we cannot actually contact them and get the history for that particular, at least for a day or something.
Correct. This one, if you wanted to like go back and then check, we will not do it on regular basis, right? So
Actually,
this
the
time travel
retention
implementation,
usually
yeah,
time
main
travel
intention.
retention, it is not very regular.
It is related to
Okay.
the like a kind of information, right? So that's why.
Okay.
Account usage, see this information, some information here, what are the different tables we have, and then what will be the complete information. This is related to login metrics. So this is basically the complete information we are going to get it, and which particular the table, what is the information will be available. So how to get that particular information, the exact this one table for table level format is there, but I'm unable to see where exactly it is.
Fine, tomorrow you can.
Okay, we will suggest cross check this here. So once in account history table somehow, so somewhere you will able to get that information. Okay.
We have a billing, one class on billing, right?
Yes, we are going to discuss that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking for some labeling or something like that.
Mhm. Okay, sure. We will see that. Okay, yes. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.